Kanye's anti-Semitic remarks seem to be having some serious consequences for the rapper, and it looks like Australia's thinking of banning him altogether. But why is that?
I believe that I suffered from exhaustion. I suffered from being lied to constantly by the people around me, by my management.
The rapper is facing some serious problems after claiming that Jewish people control the media. Now, let's be honest, I bet you've all heard this or at least some other variation of it at some point. But endorsing it and using your platform to spread such lies, that's just a new kind of bizarre. And get this, when one of the people in the radio show actually called him out, Ye ended up walking out. Now, at this point, you could pretty much expect anything from him. After all, he did call his ex-mother-in-law Kris Jong-un, and no one's gonna forget his petty acts against Pete Davidson while the comedian was dating Kim Kardashian. So yeah, he can do some wild stuff from time to time, but this one definitely took the win, and now Australian Jews are calling for him to get banned.
What is the mechanism that is malfunctioning or is taking a break in your brain? Do you know?
I wouldn't be able to explain that as much, just, because I'm not a doctor.
The rapper has found himself quite a lot of enemies around the world with his weird remarks that went viral last year, and now when he really wants to go meet his new wife's family, things have taken a turn for the worse. You see, the 27-year-old Bianca Sensory is actually from Melbourne, but her trip home with a new beau was not as fun as she'd planned since, unfortunately for her and her family, he's a Holocaust denier. With those comments going viral, people are protesting his arrival in the country, even before he's set foot there. Yikes, maybe he should just come out and say sorry. But of course, it's never easy with him, and the Aussie Jews seem to know that pretty well, since they're campaigning to get his visa denied. Are they getting successful though? That's the real question.
And say like this jacket that I'm wearing right now, I took like a lot of ideas and we mixed it together. It's almost like the Pixar jackets, like taking a rip stop. Because usually if you get a bomber, they do it in this nylon.
I did some digging around for you, and this is where Kanye stands regarding his entry into the land down under. Well, in the olden days, Ye might have had to wait this out. You know the usual, don't draw too much attention to yourself till it blows over or till anyone else messes up. But it seems like everyone's very tired of his antics, and things just seem to be getting worse. Pressure on Australian authorities continues to increase, and there's a possibility that they might cave. Yep, that's right. Australian Education Minister Jason Clare made it pretty clear that the chances of him getting a visa were pretty slim. He said that he wasn't sure he'd applied for a visa yet, but results online showed him to be a big fan of Hitler. In the minister's own words, people like that who have applied for visas to get into Australia in the past have been rejected. That seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
This is like a sprained brain, like having a sprained ankle. And if someone has a sprained ankle, you're not going to push on him more.
Right.
With us, once our brain...
All this pretty much justifies the protests against him, in my opinion. Speaking of, they seem to be getting a little intense, and it looks like the Aussies are trying their best to make sure that Ye doesn't enter their homeland. Davir Abramovich, the chairman of the Jewish lobby group, the Anti-Defamation Commission, called for the country's immigration minister, David Giles, to refuse the rapper's entry into the country. He called him a hate monger and said that Australia should not put out the welcome mat and provide a platform to him. Ye has been labeled as a lover, anti-Semite, and Hitler worshipper, along with being dangerous.
I just think that we were in a period where, he had so much stuff to deal with. He couldn't deal with a, wild card like me. I think that's too unpredictable. Someone that wasn't being controlled by strategy and thought.
And those are just some surface level things that people have been calling him, by the way. Many believe that if he does manage to enter the country, then their values of tolerance, diversity, and respect will be undermined. The immigration minister has the power to restrict Kanye from entering the country if he thinks he doesn't pass a character test, as outlined in Section 501 of the Migration Act of the state. And considering the remarks West makes from time to time, Giles is going to have a lot of evidence. Now, you might be wondering what these remarks are. Well, I've got all of Ye's major anti-Semitic comments shortlisted for you.
Acre ranch and a couple other properties out there. We're going to be farming and going seed to sow and have our own cotton hydroponic farm and our own hemp farm and our own wheat farm, so we can see every element and getting into.
Towards the end of the year, on October 8th, West tweeted, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." Yes, he actually wrote that. And that's not all. Oh no, not at all. He followed it by saying, "The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jewish," and then tried to spin the narrative by saying that people were blackballing him for opposing their agendas. What agendas though, Ye? Now, if you think that's not enough, then Kanye's here to make sure that you're not disappointed. He claimed in an interview that Jewish people have owned the black voice, and he even had the audacity to say that the Jewish people in the music industry would milk him till he died. What does that even mean? Kanye, please explain.
It is the lowest form of discrimination. Why? Because you take anything that someone is discriminated for, and that person.
All these remarks have cost him almost $1 billion in endorsement deals, and if I'm being honest, things don't look good for him at all. I bet you all just sort of feel bad for his wife's family and kids who got dragged into this. Speaking of the kids, even the younger Wests have gotten involved now. While the rapper and his new bride might have gotten married in secret, their relationship is definitely taking a major step forward. They're meeting the families. Recent paparazzi photos showed that the couple met North West for a meal at Nobu. Now, we don't know if this is the first time they're meeting or not, but it's definitely the first time they hung out in public, which in my opinion is a pretty big step, especially considering the fact that the two have been keeping their relationship under wraps for quite some time now.
I was speaking at the Art Institute last year, and one kid came up to me and he said, 3 of my friends died, and I don't know if I'm gonna be the next. And it has to, you have to think like, when you're a senior and it's like the last month.
Some of you may agree with me and say that this is rather unlike Kanye, but let's just hope that this relationship ends up having some positive effect on him and he comes out a changed man, back to his old amazing rapper self. Would that be too much to ask? But before I get you to believe in it, let's get to know the new Mrs. Kanye West. So as I mentioned before, Sensory is a 27-year-old architect who originally hails from Melbourne. She met the rapper 2 years ago, and it sorta sounds like a sweet enough meet-cute. Apparently, she took on a job as an architectural designer at his Yeezy business, but before she got the role of her life with West, she was actually a trainee at DP Toscano Architects in Melbourne. And apart from this, she seems to be the one for the hustle culture, as she even runs her own jewelry brand on the side. The two are somewhat cute because Kanye wrote a song called Sensory Overload for her, which was obviously a play on his new lover's last name.
Snuck in about 4 or 5 years ago, and now we basically made this our new place of residence. And when working on a hip-hop album and a state,
And get this, their wedding actually took the bride's family by surprise, and her sister Angelina even referred to it as exciting news. But as anyone would expect, they've requested privacy at this time. Now that's definitely going to prove helpful at such a time when this new addition to their family is being scrutinized for his less than appealing remarks about a community that's suffered enough. What's more is that Kanye's world-famous ex, Kim Kardashian, is also staying quiet about these new developments buzzing around. She informed everyone through social media that she was currently in her quiet girl era. Well, let's just hope that no one's bearing the brunt of Ye's actions, which of course includes his kids and his wife's family.
It's like a mark of the beast on my ego, because I could do something crazy in the best way, and it could be like a, literally like a random person on the street and point.
Doesn't all this attention on Kanye and his wife just make you wonder if Bianca knew what she was getting into? Well, that's it for the latest grim adventures of Kanye West. See you in the next video.